Hello guys, and welcome back once again to the Asian channel. And today we are going to talk about let's take a close look at the DF-100 or the CJ-100 Supersonic Cruise Missile. The missile that was among the many items showcased at the now concluded Zhuhai Air Show. For simplicity, let's solely use the name CJ-100 for the duration of this video. The CJ-100 is among the newest and the most capable missile in the Chinese A-280 system, their so-called anti-axis area deniable capability. The DF-100 name is basically the missile's designation when it's used by the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, while the CJ-100 is the designated name of the missile that's used the People's Liberation Army Air Force. The CJ-100 is not a hypersonic missile, but it blurs the line between a ballistic missile and cruise missile because it adapts both of their capability. Of course, the hypersonic and ballistic missile is the most capable offensive weapon on their A-280 system, but they're more expensive and you can't use them on every target. The hypersonic and ballistic missile are normally used on large, high-value, or strategic targets like command centers, radars installation, air defense batteries, etc. Both systems have a decent CEP or circular error probable. Their average CEP is acceptable because they're carrying a large nuclear or conventional warhead. But the CJ-100 has a higher accuracy rate. It's believed to be within decimeters or even centimeters only. That's because of its smaller warhead. It needs to have a very high accuracy to cause major damage. The CJ-100 is designed for surgical and precision strike that requires high level of accuracy on smaller moving targets like hardened bunkers, mobile assets such as ships and vehicles, bridges, supply routes, and precision strike on specific reinforced hangars at large bases that house fighter jets or ammunitions. For example, on the last missile strike done by Iran towards Israel, they were able to penetrate Israel's air defense and hit multiple bases. So some critical area of the airport were damaged and some area were not, since it was a very large base. That's because some of Iran's ballistic missile landed on less vital area like runway that can easily be fixed. So if they have this kind of weapon, they would have dealt serious blow to Israel by destroying their hangars that houses their prized F-35 fighters. That was later used by Israel to retaliate against Iran. The CJ-100 has a range of 4,000 kilometers, and it flies a maximum cruising speed of 4,900 kilometers per hour. Putting all enemy assets within China's mainland at that range in serious problem like military bases, naval base and air bases in Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Guam. It also included ships and specially aircraft carriers within anti-area access denial range. In this video, I'll explain a detailed look on how the CJ-100 works and how it compares to the other missile system used by China and other countries. First, we're familiar with famous American Tomahawk cruise missile, the most widely used missile by the U.S. Navy during its war campaign in the Middle East. The Russians have their own version too, the Caliber cruise missile, and of course the Chinese with their CJ-10. Almost all this three cruise missile have a range of 2,000 to 2,500 kilometers, and they're subsonic that travels at 800 to 1,000 kilometers per hour. While the Chinese CJ-10 is newer and slightly faster at the speed of 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers per hour. But as well as noticed in Ukraine, cruise missiles are less effective when the enemy has at least a basic air defense system or credible air force. Even manpads and large caliber anti-aircraft gun can shoot them down since they're low-flying and fly at slow speeds, so they're less effective when you're not fighting insurgents or a terror group hiding in caves anymore. Because of that, China created a newer version, the YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missile. It does still fly at a low speed like a regular cruise missile, but it has now a built-in booster, so during the final phase before it hits the target, the missile will accelerate to Mach 3 or 3,700 kilometers per hour to make it more difficult to intercept. It would also make a few maneuver during terminal phase like high altitude pop-up to make interception harder. But the YJ-18 is still vulnerable during the slow fight while it's cruising far towards its target. While the ballistic missiles, and especially the hypersonic missiles, are more effective against an enemy with a credible air defense, but they're more expensive than cruise missiles. They're only intended for high-value targets. So for that reason, China created the CJ-100. The CJ-100 bridges the gap between ballistic missile and cruise missile because it uses features from both systems. The CJ-100 is fired from a ground-based mobile launcher used by the Rocket Force in the Air Force. The CJ-100 has a maximum range of 4,000 kilometers, and it cruises at the average speed of Mach 3 to Mach 4, much faster than any cruise missile. And it can even reach Mach 9 or 4,900 kilometers per hour, especially during the terminal phase. Also, like I mentioned earlier, it borrows characteristics from both the ballistic missile and cruise missile because we all know that ballistic missiles fly high from space to lower aerodynamic resistance and to increase speed. And then it dives back into Earth during terminal phase to hit its target. While cruise missiles fly low, either through sea skimming or terrain masking at low speed to increase range and avoid detection. So the CJ-100 does both of that. First, it climbs high after it was launched, reaching at least Mach 2 from its rocket boosters. And then the dual-mode ramjet engine kicks in, allowing it to fly at high speed for sustained flight in the stratosphere at Mach 3. And then it dives back into the Earth at the speed of Mach 4 while still far from the target. And then it continues to fly low like a cruise missile, but it's flying ultra-fast and like a slow cruise missile. It is flying at the speed of Mach 5, flying 5 times faster than cruise missile. Make it harder for the enemy to intercept. And then lastly, during final stages, the missile would make a series of maneuvers at high speeds to make its path unpredictable, making it extra harder for the enemy to detect, just like the YJ-18 anti-ship missile. The CJ-100 uses a combination of multiple guidance systems including active radar, image matching, and satellite navigation for better accuracy and fend-off anti-jamming system.